For the thousands in attendance and the millions watching around the world, we are live and amplified. So let's get ready to podcast.
Fire it up.
Welcome, everybody, to another live and amplified livecast. I'm your host, Tom Quiet, and we are back at it again with another amazing podcast. Today, we have a very special guest. We have Louissa. How's it going today?
It's going great. How are you today?
I'm doing pretty good. Like we were talking earlier, just a busy day at work. And yes, that's all we're going to talk about. That's all we're going to bring up about that. Just busy. But it's fun. I enjoy it. So I guess it's not really work. Isn't that the saying? If you enjoy what you're doing, you're not really working.
I think so. You know what? I think that's the aspiration in life because you got to have money, right?
Yep.
But as long as you like it and you can say that you're happy with yourself and go to bed with yourself happy, then
yep.
What you got to complain about, right?
Yep. 100% agreed. So, first off, I want to thank you so much for jumping on the podcast. I'm really excited to sit down and chat with you. I've been listening to your music all day. I'm really excited to jump in and talk about your new music you got getting ready to release or new music that you released and then like all your future projects. Right. But before we kind of jump into all that, what's your background? What got you into music?
Okay, so I don't have the typical linear story. Like I was singing since I was 3. That's really actually not what happened. At first I was a dancer, and I would say my love for music first came from ballet. And my mother was an excellent pianist who learned as an adult. So she would play Scott Joplin around the house. And then my dad was always playing records. And my grandmother could sing like Doris Day, and I grew up next to her. So I had music around me, but I wasn't necessarily singing. And then I was in 6th grade at a sleepover, and there was like karaoke, right? That was the thing. I'm a millennial. So I think I don't know if we were doing, I can't remember. One of them was, Destiny's Child, Bootylicious, which is hilarious that we were like 12-year-olds singing. Yep. I sang, and my friend was like, "You sound like a Disney princess." It was like the most funny thing. And that like just clicked something inside of me. And then my cousin gave me a cracked version of Fruity Loops, which is now Florida Studio. And I started like producing stuff. And then at 12 at my talent show, I made the most awful self-made production and song and performed it. It was called Extraordinary. And then from there, I felt like I just went and I was taking my stuff around town, just trying to make shows for myself. Like once the bug is in you, like you can't get it out. It's like you have to scratch it the rest of your life.
Yeah. Absolutely. Well, sorry, you brought up Bootylicious and school, and I just a million flashbacks of me in 7th, 8th, and 9th grade, and every girl in my school singing that song.
You must be the same age.
And it's like thinking back on it, it's like, that's interesting.
So not appropriate. Yeah. Like, and it's not a bad song. Like, I understand it. I'm very much into females empowerment, but now that I look back at it, like, I'm like, oh my gosh, like, I can't believe we were singing that at 12. I don't know why this story just popped into my mind. I completely forgot about it. In 8th grade, we had to give a presentation about World War II, and we were allowed to do whatever we wanted. And at the time was when Survivor was huge. Destiny's Child Survivor. And this group of girls did a radio show dedicated to all the active troop. Like they did it in like during World War II times, but they played this song, and like just thinking back about it, it's like it made no sense, but it was amazing at the same time. So I think I sang that on the announcements in 7th grade. I don't know why I did. For some reason I was singing on, like, I have like blurred memories because I did a lot of stuff, but I'm one of those people that once I got out of high school, I feel like I kind of like blocked it off. Like, I don't remember a lot.
I was very much the same. Once I got out of high school, it was like, okay, done. Move on to the next phase of my life. I'm good.
Cut off that segment and going on to the next. Yeah.
Yep, pretty much. So, as you started kind of going through your musical journey and just kind of exploring what type of music you wanted to perform and write, you kind of touched on this with Destiny's Child, but who were you listening to influentially?
Well, definitely them, just because I was so enthralled with their vocal production. Like, I'm really big into harmonies and stacks and layers, but it's really kind of bizarre because it's such a weird mix, which is why I think that I'm so different as an artist. And sometimes that's a struggle, sometimes it's a superpower. And so I loved, of course, the pop records on the radio, Rihanna, I'm trying to think, Christina Aguilera, who didn't, you know, all of that. But my parents were older. My mom and dad didn't have me till they were, you know, close to 40, 39. So I listened to a lot of older music. Like, I loved Simon and Garfunkel. Like, and I, you know, that was an influence, and that's kind of strange. And then my sisters got into J-pop. Crystal K, I loved her. Nami Amuro, like, I loved their music. It was so like musical, but still had really cool sounds. There was this song Fish by M Flo. Like, so I have a really weird kind of, and of course my grandmother singing big band. Like, she really could sing like Doris Day and Judy Garland. Her voice was gorgeous. So it was weird. So it kind of became this weird jazz, pop, R&B, folk hybrid, like it's like 50 things at once. So it makes me very versatile, but sometimes like, you're like, where do I fit? You know?
I mean, it's always really good to have that versatility as far as different influences, because that's how you become open-minded and, you know, just and pull from different things. Like, I mean, you brought up all the different influences you had, but I think a lot of really good musicians have that similar story where like country artists, their parents were really into like the old school country, Merle Haggard, you know, just like name any of the like iconic country bands. But then they had that offbeat friend that was really into like punk rock or hip hop or pop.
I mean, I love that too. Like Bullet by Valentine, like Tears Don't Fall. Like, I love that, like his vocal power. Like, it's so bizarre. And Dolly Parton. Okay. I stand for Dolly Parton. Like, I love her. And I do not sing country, but she just, her tone, her clarity, Linda Eder, like I'm very much into vocal prowess too. So if you can make me weep and flip your voice in a way that I've never heard, I'm going to like be enthralled because it's an instrument. So, you know, that's what influences me a lot. All kinds of stuff, everything.
Gotcha. And then, as far as like moving forward, I know you at one point you kind of took a break from music.
Oh yeah, definitely did. So like I said, my story isn't typical. And sometimes I feel like it's a mental health hindrance, which I think is really important to talk about. But so I ended up after high school, like I really wanted to go to school for music. And I was one of the smart kids, you know, my dad was like, no, you're not going to live in a box. And I respect fully his assertion towards that now that I'm older, because I do think it would have eaten me alive because I was way too green and naive. But I went and I actually got married really young. I had a child young and I got into fitness. I always loved dance. I was a dancer for 14 years and I ended up becoming a personal trainer. I was going to become a pro bodybuilder. I was like in the gym with all of that. And I had a few like really traumatizing experiences with music, like on TV, embarrassing, and we'll just leave that in the past. And I was like, so
we won't bring it up then.
Yeah. And after that, you're like, okay, this is not for me. I love it, but it's not for me. And then like I sang for my husband's homecoming He's in the Navy. For the skipper wanted me to sing. What was it? Was it God Bless America? It was one of those. And that was kind of like a reigniting thing. I was like, oh my gosh, I really do love this. And I got Lyme disease. And I became homebound, periods of bedridden and not. And it kind of like woke me up because I could barely sing. I struggled with dysphonia, like Shania Twain. Getting air, I'd almost pass out. It was crazy. And to have that happen is, everything that you kept and suppressed down comes to light. And you're like, what am I doing? Like, this is what I really want to do with my life. Like, I love fitness. I still personal train right now, but it's not my passion. Here's a plane. See here.
Yeah.
See, it's dramatic effect.
Yeah. I was hoping that like all the cool features that Zoom has, it was going to cue it right, or like compress it right out, but
no, I'm sorry.
no, it's all good. It's all good. That's what I love about this podcast. It's real and it's uncut.
Yeah.
So kind of dealing with all that, that's kind of why you decided to take a break, or you were forced to take a break?
So no, like dealing with the feeling super embarrassed and self-conscious, and then just feeling like I wasn't good enough. I've really constantly dealt with that. I still deal with that today. And but getting the Lyme disease like really realigned me and made me realize that how silly I was to, ignore an innate gift and desire.
Yeah.
And so then I ended up getting back into it. So, but the break was kind of like self-chosen, and getting sick was actually how I healed. Like I would go and Smule. It's this app. Now I'm addicted to Voicey, by the way. That's just my plug. So if you guys want to sponsor it, I'm joking.
I saw that on your Instagram. We were going to get into that because I've never heard of that app before.
Oh my gosh, it's amazing.
But I had heard of Smule. Like I had done Smule in the past, but.
Okay. Smule, it's its own thing and I respect it, but Voicey, man, that's where it's at. It's this thing. It's like this dog. Tsunami came from Voicey. Okay.
Yeah.
So I could talk forever, but I just would go in the closet and there would be like a tight beat on there, and I would just sing with my headphones because I was just feeling so bad. And no matter if I slept, I couldn't escape my symptoms. Nobody could figure out what was wrong with me. And so just like, I would just go and sing and sing and sing, and it got me through. And it was very isolating because I couldn't drive a car. Like I had a clinical diagnosis of encephalitis, which is brain swelling. So like my whole life went like, ooh, I could have been sicker. Absolutely. But that was enough.
Yeah. Gotcha. And then once you kind of got back, so not Smule, but Voicey was kind of the vehicle that helped you find your. It was actually. Or was it? It was Smule.
No, and then so I just kind of like was talking to my husband after. Oh my gosh, this sounds like some movie now that I'm saying it aloud. So my dad, he was my second parent to pass. He passed in 2017 from acute myeloid leukemia. And it's funny because, I told you how he wasn't thrilled with me going to school for music. And acute myeloid leukemia, most people die within like a week of diagnosis. It's really fast. It's really abrupt and sudden. We got 2 months with him. And so there was a lot of healing that went on when he was in hospice. And one of the last conversations we ever had was he said, why did you never do anything with music? You could have knocked me over with like your breath, because I was like, here I am thinking for years that you were so disappointed that I didn't like become some engineer or something like that, but you wanted me to continue music. And my last present from him was a looper, because I was starting to gig with a friend, and then he went into the hospital.
Yeah.
And so then that kind of like was also a shift. And then I took some of my Mistress. I took that. It came from a Smule. And I brought it to a producer, and I was like, hey, this is my melody line. He knows where I sleep at night. And I just like kind of got it. And I'm like, hey, let's build around this. Let's make it weird. Like I totally wanted to go full weird. I've since kind of dialed it back, but that's kind of how I got into it. I know it's like very, I don't know, that seems very like a storybook now that I kind of hear it aloud, you know?
Yeah. I mean, but not to divert the attention, I had a very similar
Really?
situation with I'm not a musician. Now, I'm gonna just put that out there. But my mom passed away not too long ago from cancer, and for the longest time, going through school and like the early parts of my career, it was, hey, that's cool, but don't give up your career because this is gonna make you your money. Like, and it was always not stay safe, but make sure you have your money income coming. And it was coming a point where she thought that like the podcast and all the live and amplified stuff was like just a hobby. And then about a week or two before she passed away, one of the very last conversations that we had while she was still kind of aware what was going on, because she had pancreatic cancer. So she told me, whatever you do in this life, don't give up on your passion.
I understand that. And I know how that affected you, because I know how it affected me when my dad said that. So I'm glad that the universe has brought us together.
Yeah.
For two people not giving up, because there's a reason for it, you know? And when people get closer to death, I think they know things that we don't know.
Yeah.
You know, I think they're like, I'm one of those people. I think they just know things from the world that we can't possibly grasp in our mortality yet.
Yep. Absolutely. And like one of the things that really touched me was, so when we found out, so it was like 3 months from when we found out she had cancer until she passed away. And so luckily I had a job that allowed me to go be with her and be with my family while she kind of went through chemo, and we kind of figured out what was going to happen, or the ultimate end was going to be. And I was canceling my podcast. Like for those 3 months, I'd canceled about 90% of my podcast, because it was just like, yo, I'm working, I'm trying to help her. And, you know, just like that third thing kept pulling for me. And when I would do a podcast, she would sit there and just listen to me. Like I'd be in the bedroom and she'd be sitting in the living room. She'd have the TV down way low because my dad would be like asleep. And she'd just sit there and listen to me. And then she'd ask me questions because she couldn't quite hear what everything was going on. And it was just like, wow, really? And so.
It's weird, isn't it? Like, it's so bizarre. And then it's not that you're living for your parents, but whenever you've grown up, and I think it's also, I don't know what generation American you are, but it's almost kind of like an immigrant mindset. Like very much work hard. My dad was a mill worker, and, you know, all of my great grandparents, except maybe one down the line, were like fresh here, came over at 15 years old. And even my mother's dad was born in another country. Yeah. So everyone was very fresh and very like rough and tough, you know, just must work hard no matter what, sacrifice, and just worry about food on the table. And there's not passions and things. It's priorities. And
that's exactly how I grew up.
You said
I don't know. I don't know what generation came over, but I think it was my dad's grandparents. They came over from Poland. That would make the most sense, because my grandpa had a brother that was still over there. So, you know, I think that would obviously make the most sense. But like my grandpa was an electrician there's a huge steel mill in the like the area.
It's so similar.
It's inland steel. So I'm sure. And so my grandpa was an electrician for them. So he went around and did electrician things. And then my dad, he was supposed to go there, and start working for them, but he became a pilot.
Oh, wow.
And so he kind of broke away. And my grandmother had a lot of pressure on me to become, oh, you got to stay in South Chicago. You can't leave. If you're not working at the mill,
Yeah.
you're not anything, So
This is so familiar.
I mean, you're from Pittsburgh, right?
Pittsburgh, yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So I mean, you know exactly what I'm talking about.
So much so, well, the steel industry, and so much so that like there was literally like segregation of churches with like this. There was still so much fresh immigrants. Like, there's the Lithuanians here, the Italians here, and Slovaks, and
Yeah.
And of course there's more ancestry than that, but like those are the main things. And I noticed as I got older and I moved away. I lived in Jacksonville, Florida for a while. Now I'm here in Virginia Beach, and it's just like the difference in the mindset. And I mean, I'm glad that I've gotten out of there and was away from it, but I do miss sometimes that, I don't know, that kind of mindset and such. I understand full-heartedly why my dad said what he did, and I'm grateful for it.
Mhm.
Sometimes, I get a little like, oh man, if I had just done this when I was younger, because I recorded my first song officially at 15.
Yeah.
And I was on a college TV show at 16. And like, I was wondering like how it could have gone, but it just wasn't the time, but sometimes it makes me wonder.
Yeah. You brought up Jacksonville.
Mm-hmm.
What did you think of living in Jacksonville?
Not for me.
Not for you?
Not for me. It felt very foreign. It was too hot. It was too hot coming from Pittsburgh, which has more cloudy days than Seattle. Okay.
Yeah.
And no, I don't like that. And it was just different, but some of the best people that I love the most in life, I met there. Some have since moved on. Some still live in the general vicinity, but I met friends for life there. So, and it opened my eyes to how people can live differently. Mm-hmm. And I needed to see some things that I was sheltered from in Pittsburgh's area. Yeah. So overall, I'm grateful for it,
Yeah, absolutely. Because I move around a lot. So my dad was in Jacksonville for a little bit. And so I would go visit him. I lived in Tallahassee, Florida for a couple of years. And so I would go visit him. And I didn't mind Jacksonville. I think like if I were to give it a full like try, I wouldn't hate it.
Right.
It's like a small enough city that it's a big enough city to give me everything I needed, but it's a small enough city to not be overwhelming, if that makes sense.
More so just like spread out housing and shopping like everywhere. And I think I miss like the Springs, and I miss like we lived on base, and which was gorgeous. And it was like Stepford Wives community. And, and I had my network of friends. The gym was there, and there were the manatees that would come up from the river. And like, that was so cool. And we had an alligator that the children named Mr. Chompy. So I do miss that. That was cool. But, it wouldn't be the same if I was there now. A lot of my friends have moved on, and, there's a couple that aren't, but it just wouldn't be the same.
That's how it is for me in Chicago. Like every week I get asked by somebody if I would ever consider moving back. And it's like, it's not the same. I went back for my mom's funeral. It wasn't the same. Yep. I go back for pretty much all the major holidays, and it's never the same. And it's just like,
it's kind of sad too, after you've lost everybody, like it's like triggering, right? Yeah. Like you're there and you're like, oh, and then other people are having family events and you're like, you're in your feelings.
Yeah. Well, it's that. And then like I go there and I start picking up on stuff that I never noticed before, like just how depressed everyone is and just how stuck in their ways. So, like I'll go and visit. When I go to town, I go visit. I used to work at a bowling alley, and everybody that I worked with, about half of them still work there. And we're talking back in 2007. Mm-hmm. So it's been a good minute, and 15 years later, they still work there. So that just kind of gives you the mindset of all of it.
They're okay with that.
What's that?
Some people are okay with that.
Yeah.
And and they want that. But like, I've always like felt like, I don't know, like I heard that there was some like possible people that moved around a lot. I don't want to say necessarily like a term, like they use the term loosely gypsy, like, and in my heritage. And I feel like that's in my blood. Like, I just like, I'm like, I feel like I should be somewhere else right now.
And so I went back and I started noticing stuff, and I was sitting there just looking at somebody I looked up to as a kid. And he's just sitting there. He's got this look on his face, like at any minute he could eat a bullet, just like that, just that look on his face. And I'm sitting there, I'm like, one of my buddies that I was hanging out with, I was like, was I always this depressed when I worked here? Or just like this, like, did I look like this? And he's like, yeah, this was you 15 years ago. And I'm like, wow. And it just kind of put it all into perspective, because, I was 20 years old, had no future, like I was at a community college, so it was, yeah. But yeah. So not to, we took a real random left turn there, but that's fine. I love it.
That's me.
So you released Tsunami at the beginning of the month, correct? Yeah. I was thrown off because it said a pre-save link, and I was like, oh, I'm pre-saving it. And then.
So maybe I forgot to change that.
It happens.
Indie life, guys. Okay, this is indie artist when you don't have your team yet. Okay.
It is 100% fine. Like, I was sitting there, I was like, oh, okay. And then it said play it. And I'm like,
I'm just testing you. Okay.
And so I hit play, and then I look and I'm like, oh, I just found an old link. I'm sorry. Yeah.
Sorry. Thank you.
Yeah. But so what's the story behind Tsunami?
So it's funny. It's not like some grand, amazing story like other songs that I have to come. Okay. The story behind this one is I've been hearing so many times that I should make a Voicey, a song, because most of those are freestyles, no lie. And so I was going through, and I'm friends with the producer, Krisha Price. Like, well, not friends, but like I've become acquainted with. Yeah. And it's funny because I admire so many producers on there, and I get so enthralled, and I'm just like, I'll freestyle usually to the title, not every time. And it's called Tsunami. So I'm like, come in and fast like a tsunami. And it just like starts coming out. And I'm like, oh, and I was like really feeling myself at the time. Like, I was feeling really pretty and really sexy. And I was like, I felt like really like coming into my divine feminine. And that's something that's been really repressed in myself. And I really wanted to kind of bring it about. And I was like, I'm a person that dances around words, and I do illusions. So that's where I shine. And so I just felt like I wanted to make because I turned 30 this year, like a sexy song. And that's the story. It's just like, it's so not exciting, but it was just one of those things where I freestyled the hook, and then I was like, and I'm like, oh, okay. I'm like, all right, I'm away. And I'm like, okay, I like this. And I just went with it. And I was just like, what do I say here? Oh, take a line from this other song that I did. And that was like, come and taste this rainbow. And I'm like, okay. I'm just going to go full on. Yeah. I don't even care. I'm 30. I earned it.
Yeah. Oh, this isn't usually how you write music, right? This was just like a completely in the moment. You're feeling it. Yeah.
So I'm changing my style. So like, Mistress came from Smule. I have other songs for an EP that's more, I'm probably just going to drop 244, more cinematic music that I wanted to do for sync. Like, I think this is where the diversity comes in. I use some of my classical voice training in there. And a lot of times, because I have played piano growing up, I'll just sit at the piano, and it's basic chords, but I hear chords and I just start playing and singing. And then I take it to the studio, and this time I've been working with a songwriting team called The Playbook Music, all really amazing musicians in there. And I've learned a whole new way to write because of how they start with the hook usually, not always. And top line, I'm often like the top liner, which is the melody. And for shopping demos for artists. And kind of cool to take all the different parts and put them together. So like it's been fun. Like I'm liking not caring so much and not really worrying about it. And because the EP music is talking a lot about like my Lyme journey and traumas and things. And this is more so like, I want to do some fun music. So I have that, and I have Love Me, which will be coming soon. And that is an anthem to, and it's somebody called it the hashtag song because of the lines that I put in there. Like just be like, like you don't give any care anymore. You want to fully love yourself, because that's something I struggle with. So it's like, it's just supposed to be an anthem to yourself. So I want to have like the serious, the more artistic, and the fun. Like I want to do it all. Like I'm way too motivated that I get stuck.
Yeah. Well, hey, that's a blessing and a curse at the same time. Like, you get so motivated that it's like, oh, I want to do this. I want to do this. I want to do that. I want to do this. And then before you know it, you got like 20 projects on your plate.
That's me right now. And what's that song called? It's called All I Want Is Everything.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's me. Like I've never not known what I wanted to do. I've always known. And I see and I dream so big that it's almost too big.
I've actually lost several friends and work acquaintances because I dream so big.
Yeah.
I end up having to drop certain projects because it's like, oh, when do I have time? I need to sleep at some point. When do I have time to do this?
And then you get overwhelmed. And that's something I'm really trying to work on this year, like, and not overthink the process. I'm a perfectionist, which is really not a great trait to have. And that's no disrespect to anyone that has that, but it blocks your blessings and it blocks your creativity and talent.
Yep. I have the same issue. I was talking to one of our news producers at work about it the other day. I was like, because we're working on a big fundraising special for the Children's Miracle Network.
Yeah, I remember seeing those emails.
And so this is my first time producing something like to this magnitude, like a full half-hour spectacle. And I was talking to the technical producer that's going to lay it out and make sure we're not doing things the wrong way. And I was like, look, if it doesn't turn out exactly like this, and I laid out all the parameters, it doesn't matter if we sit here and raise $100,000. I'm going to think it's a failure. And he's like, he just looked at me dumbfounded because he didn't know what to say. And I'm like, look, I'm the worst critic on myself.
Oh my gosh.
if this animation, if in block F going into break, if this animation doesn't play correctly, the entire thing's a waste. Like it's not good. So that's just me. And
I get that. I do.
And it's one of those things where I have learned from myself. Like I'll go back to a project that I did 2 years ago that I thought was a failure at the time. And I'll go and watch it and I'll completely forget why I thought it was a failure.
And you're like, oh my God, this is amazing. Like this came from me. Like, and that's not narcissism. That's realizing your gifts, because when you're in it, I do this constantly. And especially with my vocals, I'm such a perfectionist with my vocals. I hear the slightest failure in a run. Like I love runs and I'll just I'm like, oh no, my placement wasn't good and nobody else cares. It's only me. And, I'm just so blocking myself sometimes. And that's the thing, that's the journey. And I feel like there's a lot of issues around releasing Love Me. And I feel like it was the universe. And so now it's like, okay, it's, I'm actually punching a vocal for it next week because I hear the thing. And then I saw like an interview by one of my favorite artists. And she said she re-recorded her one song that makes me weep like 4 times on the album that she put. So I was like, okay, I'm good. I didn't do all that. And I just realized though that I do the same thing and it's so frustrating, but I don't know, but that also will make you never settle and you'll keep better.
But it's all, I've come to learn it's all about perspective. Once you this is something that I've started practicing on over the last few weeks. And I'm really hoping this project that I'm working on will give me the opportunity to kind of put it in full force and just be like, see if it works or not. But when I find myself saying, this isn't right, or this isn't what I want, or this doesn't look good, but everybody else is saying, no, it looks amazing, then I need to change my perspective. Like I'm looking at it too closely.
You have to realize too, because as an artist, and I think that's a form of art, you're a vessel.
Yeah.
And even if you don't want to be, you were gifted that lot in life. Like that's what you are. Why are you creating in the first place? Yes, for your own healing, but it's greater than you. It's bigger than you. And the best thing, like I've performed Love Me Live already. And the reception, people are like, I felt so good about myself after I heard that. And I stopped my song because I had like reverb on, because I wanted reverb for Tsunami. And I was like, I couldn't hear myself. And I was like, hold on, can we run this back? I'm like, I need to start this again for you because it wasn't right. And I'm like, I know sometimes like that's like, but I just wanted them to experience the song with the feeling that it needed to have, the energy. And I was distracted by the reverb, so I couldn't give it to them. Yeah. And then they came up and said, like, it made me feel so good about myself. And, other musicians, good feedback, constructive criticism, like, oh, something needs to change with either your voice or the tracking. And it just like, and it messes with you, like whenever you hear so much of that sometimes, and they only mean well, but you have to go for who it's for, the consumer, not you, not other musicians, because we're all just going to find something because we are hypercritical or, but it's for who it's actually for is what you have to flip.
Yep.
And if that makes any sense,
no, it makes absolutely perfect sense. One thing that I did want to talk about, so I noticed for Mistress, you had like a music video for it.
Did. So there's a big story around that. I have decided, I had a whole vision for that, and I had, the assistance of a friend, Jessica Loring, and I would say that because of the weather, none of it turned out like I wanted it to. Maybe the beach scene, mostly, but actually my makeup wasn't supposed to be all messed up because I was supposed to have a back bend out of the water. Like I got super fit for this. I practiced the back bend, but the beach was too slanted and my top was falling off and I lost a nail. I lost an eyelash. Okay. And you cannot do makeup when you're wet and it's freezing cold. And I was like starting to get like hypothermia signs because my friend is also a nurse. Yeah. It was like a mess.
Yeah.
Okay. I was so grateful for everybody that was in it and helped out and, but I'm still proud of myself from executing, but like, I think that I've grown so much since then that now that I'm like, I want to do another video, but I'm waiting for when I get the reception from people where they really want something. And I'm going to do more homemade things with my iPhone. I've been studying and like accruing pieces and I love to edit things. Like you can do a lot with these iPhones now, that 3-camera thing on the back. Like, let me tell you, like, and I want to get the audience involved. Like, I'm very excited about it, but I just need a new one.
Yeah. I was really mad because I brought up about switching over my phone provider. I was like, yes, that means I can upgrade my phone and it's not going to be like $1,000 investment right off the bat. Mm-hmm. So I went to T-Mobile, where the provider I was switching over to, and they didn't have any iPhone 13s. And I'm like, and like, I mean, I'm a filmmaker, so anything that iPhone can do, I know how to do in an actual camera. Right. But just having that iPhone in my hand and just,
I so want the iPhone 13 because I love like photos and visuals. Like that's another creative passion. I wish I could like do photography.
And with the iPhone, right? I mean, I feel really weird saying this because it's like I can't stand when people call themselves like commercial producers and they show up with an iPhone, like for whatever reason, that just drives me nuts.
Right.
Because it's like, oh, I spent $40,000 in schooling
and all that.
And then like another 10, 15,000 in all my camera gear. And you're going to come in with a freaking $1,000 phone and.
But the technology and it is the user. Like it really is. And if you know, like if someone's good at it, like it's really quite astounding. We have all of the tools. We have too much information now. We have all the tools and all the resources. Here's another plane. Thank you. To do well, it's almost too much. Like it's like information overload. It's like, oh gosh, you know.
Oh, completely agree. So, so for the music video for Mistress, not quite what you wanted.
No, and it's not like it's just literally was like because we had to make last minute plans because of the weather.
Yeah.
And so I had these visions, and I don't have a great budget, so it's not like that. I could have been more creative with things, and I'm very proud of it still because I think everybody did their absolute best, and like my dancer Rowan and such, my makeup artist, and felt like I could just tell everybody who they are because I'm so grateful for them, and they really came through. Like I mean that 1,000%. It's nothing that anyone executed. It's variables beyond control. Like that's literally what it was. And it was like, we even had one night where I did makeup and, paid for makeup and then it was raining and couldn't use it. And and that's no one's fault. It was just like, it was like the universe was like, I don't know, like fighting back with me so much. And I now learned I will film just about everything indoors or in one day.
Yeah. Completely understood. I'm still waiting. Like I've had this it seems like every song that I hear that I get inspired to do a music video for is like a song that's been out for 5 years. And the artist, it's like, for whatever reason, I just heard it for the first time and it inspired me and I want to do a music video. And they're like, oh, that was like 3 albums ago. And I'm like,
but some of the best music, like Lizzo, like Truth Hurts. Like if you hear the story behind that, because I found some of her older stuff. I even found another artist. I can't remember her name. The song is called "Trying Not to Love You," that she was collaborating with, and it's kind of interesting how it works because it's always something that you think isn't going to work. Because, like, of course, I have my issues with all of my creations. Every person does. If they tell you they don't, I don't think they're being truthful and honest.
Or they didn't really make it. They didn't have any creative input on it.
Right. And it's, at the time, I'm always going to be proud of what I did, but it's always like, I'm always going to see, oh, what could I have changed and made better? What could I have had a better idea for? And it's just, how it is. Cause like people were enthralled with like the Mistress video, like they were, and I was like, really? Cause I'm like, I'm looking at myself. I'm like, look at my face. That's I'm watching it. Like, and it's cause I know like on the stairs, it was freestyled, you're like, well, what if we were able to get a good night? And I'm like, just on the stairs like this.
But I will say what I did enjoy about the Mistress music video is it doesn't look like your typical indie music video. Like it looks like a good music video.
Oh, because the videographer is Sergio Lorenzana. He's super skilled and he's won an Emmy and everything. And Telly Awards. He's very, very good and a good guy. So he really worked with everything. Like I said, it was just like, it was making last minute plans is what it was. Yeah. Because weather.
And I completely get that, but it just, what I really enjoyed about it was, you see some of these independent music videos and it's, you can tell they did it on a low budget. Like that it was just, it is what it is. But this music video, I just kind of watched it and I was like, wait, does she have 100 million followers and I just don't know it? No,
that's a funny thing. Like that was a strange phenomenon I noticed recently. Cause I think I grew up in the time when artists were untouchable and now it's more, and which is better to be accessible and know more. So I always idolized kind of seeing an artist, not really knowing the artist, and they're like an entity.
Mm-hmm.
And so I kind of wanted to have that. Like, actually, Louissa is my middle name.
Mm-hmm.
My mother gave it to me, and she passed from cancer. So Charlene is my first name. So it was like separation for me, so I could get into. But now everybody calls me Lou, so I'm not really sure, who I am. But no, it's like, other artists get the short and certain version. And I wanted everything. I want it to be good, and I want it to be a good product. And that's why I was really proud of it, because everybody did really come through. It was things that I would have done in my own calls, like, and even with the weather, like I go, oh, I could have come up with this, but I don't have the foresight for it until later on. And it was just one of those things. It was a learning experience, how to handle weather.
Yeah.
So I appreciate that, though. I'm very particular about being away.
So, music video for Tsunami, maybe not, or
I might do a homemade one. So what I'm trying to do is I have plans for other ones, because I actually used to dance, and I really want to start showcasing that more.
Yeah.
I did a little bit of choreography in Mistress at the end.
Yeah.
But maybe with Tsunami, I've been thinking of reaching out to some people, but it's more so like if people want it. I kind of want to go by what fans say, but Love Me, I kind of want to get a lot of people involved. I have big dreams.
Yep, 100%, 100% agree. It's good to have big dreams and big aspirations, because it keeps you moving forward.
I like
and
that.
keep striving. So
I'm gonna write that down.
Yeah. But like, as far as like where you are creativity, where are you kind of at now creatively?
Oh, so I'm on a new kind of thing.
Mhm.
I feel like I'm judging my creation a lot less, and I'm not afraid to swear. Like, maybe some people aren't okay with that, because I was very nervous about it. I am a mother,
Mhm.
and I have little girls that really look up to me, which was, interesting to me, because it's hard to see yourself in that perspective. And I'm realizing that it's okay to be in your artistic expression. And because I grew up with that immigrant mentality, right? And so now I feel like I'm experimenting with vocal phrasing, with things that I talk about, the way that I say it, and just being much more unapologetic, and experimenting with more inhibitive vocals and things, and just throwing things in there that are just different and different sounds, and not being afraid to still have sonic relevance per se, as they like to put into the terms today, but being exactly who I am, which is a hybrid, and embracing it.
Yeah.
And I had to hit 30 for that to happen.
Yeah. It happens. And then so let's talk about mental health, because you'd brought that up earlier. And I think early on during the pandemic, I was making a point to talk about it, because obviously with like the really tough lockdowns and being in the news business, it seemed like every other day we were talking about cops getting called in because somebody committed suicide somewhere. Yeah. And then obviously with musicians in general, you have, like, when you're playing live shows, you're making yourself so emotionally vulnerable on a nightly basis, weekly, like however often you're playing, that not a lot of musicians have that coping mechanism to kind of bring themselves back.
Yeah.
So good.
No, I was thinking that's what's so hard about it. Releasing your art is because it's so personal.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's why I wanted to do fun stuff.
Yeah. How do you kind of deal with your, like, the being so vulnerable and your mental health? What are some of the ways you deal with your mental health?
Therapy. I was out for a bit. And I was able to get back in, but that's the main thing. I hike in the woods. I have to get into nature. Sometimes I just go for a drive and I have no destination. I just drive. And working out, recently that's been a struggle with my body.
Yeah.
But I also need people. It's weird because I'm introverted, but like I need to talk to people. So I struggle really bad. Like I think mental health is a huge issue for me. I ride waves, and it's been worse since Lyme disease. I feel like it changed my brain chemistry because one day I'll just have no idea why. I just feel so like heavy and hopeless, and then the next I'm fine. But I believe in being authentic and telling people. I just spoke with one of my band members. I'm going to be in a cover band here, and found out I have a really amazing opportunity. And we were just like honest about where we're at. Just having coffee with someone, like I can't even tell you how healing that is. And expressing and then sharing with people and them sharing things back. You know, I don't have some special fancy routine. I wish I did more affirmations. I'm not great at that. But for me, it's connection. And that's why I love being an artist, because when someone tells you, like when someone says, your song made me feel good about myself, like, I can't even tell you what that feels like. Like, it makes me teary-eyed now. Like, I'm such a sap. Like, because it's about connecting. Like, I think that's when I reach out and try and find people, because just about everybody else is going to tell you they're in the same position. And somehow just sharing that you're there in that space, I don't know, it's healing, you know, for both of you.
Yeah.
I've
been, you know, trying to find my way of dealing with everything. Obviously, with my mom passing away not too long ago, and just like all that, like just real heavy stuff going on. But for some reason, this week, it feels like I really turned a corner, and I don't even know what I've done differently for myself, whether it's just I've kind of took a step back and just, you know, just kind of reevaluated everything, or if it's just I'm taking more quiet time for myself. Like, I don't know, whatever. Yesterday morning, I woke up and a friend of mine messaged me and asked me how I was doing. I was like, I don't know. I feel a lot better than I have in a really long time.
Yeah.
And so I don't know if I just happened to get like really good sleep that night, and that's all I needed.
Actually, you drive a really good point. So there's a lot of things there. Obviously, I'm not some type of professional, but things that I've learned from my anecdotal experience. Let me, you know, as a fitness professional, I feel like I have to always say that. Nutrition can play a big role, how much sunlight you're getting. And it really is like humans, we need people. And that's why the pandemic affected people so much, because even if we're introverted or just silence, our devices cause us depression. Like it's really kind of crazy. And even if you think of someone else and you check in with them, how much better you feel. And that sounds like so like self-serving, but you know what I mean? Like it's, I don't know. It's weird. And losing a parent, I will say, having lost both of mine, I feel for you. It's so, you do this. And sometimes music is a trigger with my dad. I hear America play, Ventura Hathaway was his favorite song. And I bawl like a freaking baby. I can be in public and I'm like, gotta go. You know, like it's so, it's not going to be linear, but it's like one day it's like you just kind of find soul peace and you realize, well, this is reality.
Yeah.
And you can accept it. So I feel for you. I really do.
And actually just kind of thinking about it right now, I realized what I had done. I just like literally as you were speaking, I realized what I had done.
What was that?
I did two things that I hadn't ever done. I went through my voicemail and I had a voicemail left over from my mother from 6 months ago, like before she was diagnosed and we knew anything was wrong. And the voicemail said, "Hey, sorry I missed your call. I'll call you back later. Love you. Bye." That's all the voicemail was.
Right.
And then because how the iPhone is set up, it shows you all those pictures that are connected to that number, like, you know.
Yeah.
And so then the last picture I have of my mother is from Father's Day, which is really weird, but ride with me on this one. I was down there. We went out to breakfast, and I was just sitting there looking at the photo, and I was looking at my mom, and I'm like, she looks so miserable in this photo.
Oh my.
So like just looking at this photo, I'm like, she looks like she just wants to go. Like she's hunched over. She'd lost like 40 pounds, and at her most, she was maybe $110. Anyways, so like just so frail and
Yeah.
That, and I was just looking at it and I'm like, it sucks that she's not here, but it was time. Like she had just checked out. Like you could tell, you could see it on her. And I went to bed. Right before I went to bed, I have this pillow that I bought her to get her through chemo.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, good night, Mom. Went to bed. I woke up yesterday. I felt like $1 million.
I've done similar things, I understand. I still have a text chain from my dad. It was 2017 and I will not delete it.
Yeah.
I sniff his hat, the scent, it's still barely there.
Yeah.
I know it sounds crazy. And I have video of him talking to me in hospice. And he had asked me, did I make the right decision? His baby. And my dad was like, kind of totalitarian. So for him to say that was like, wow. But in the video, like you can see his bags and they're full of his colon was bleeding, like blood and everything. And somehow that kind of, because when you're in it, because he still had treatment options available. But if I, actually think he was literally on chemo 24/7. If I think about it now, being rational.
Yeah.
What hell to go through. There's no other way to say it. And I look at that now and I'm like, oh my, yeah, he definitely he deserved a break. And we have a note that, he wrote me and my sister as a personal note and just a beautiful sending us wishes for the rest of our lives. And I'll go and look at that. And I look at him and my daughter because they were like this and listen to music and it helps so much. And when I want to give up on music, I think of that conversation, and I think about him being like, why'd you ever quit? It's funny, but it does help a lot.
It really did. And then I don't know, I don't know if I'm going to continue to feel this way moving forward, but all I know is other than my sinuses being on fire this morning,
oh no,
because it's that weird time of year where the leaves are falling and the pollen.
You're in Texas, right?
Yeah, I'm in Texas.
Okay, I'm trying to think. So you're where like Joanna Gaines and all of them are?
Yeah. Yep.
So, because my friend's in Paris.
Okay.
Is that far from you?
I'm not 100% sure, but I've heard of Paris.
Okay.
So yeah.
Yeah, I don't know about the weather. I've never been to Texas, so.
Well, the bad thing about where I'm at in Texas is the allergens depend on what way the wind is blowing.
Ooh. Okay.
So because we're kind of like right in the middle. We're in essentially a dust bowl for the most part. And so like if you're like beach allergies, you can get that blowing up from the south, or you can have just like dry dander coming down from the plains of like Oklahoma, Kansas, Nebraska, just all that stuff. And it just really depends on what way the wind's blowing.
That sounds really interesting to be there. Like, never been there. I've never left the East Coast. How sad is that?
You should try it. Like, I mean, it's one of those things where going back to Chicago, for the longest time, I would leave, or my family and we would leave to go on vacations for like a few days a week, but it was never anything more than that. And then we'd go right back to Chicago. And I lived in Chicago for 22 years, and then I went away to college, and it was only a 6-hour trip to go away. And it was one of those steps where I was like, oh, hey, there is life outside of my comfort zone.
Yeah, I know. I feel like our childhood must have been so similar because
Yeah.
like my dad took us to the same places,
Yep.
and he always wanted to do the same things, and he
Yep.
didn't want to go to the beach, and he didn't want to go to Disney World, he didn't want to do any of that stuff, and I felt like such a weird child because like it's not like my dad couldn't. He was just like so stuck in his ways.
Yeah. And I mean, there was the couple times we went to Disney. We went to, like, when we'd go down to Orlando, we'd go to Disney. Cool. But 9 times out of 10, we were going down to Kentucky Lake and we were going to go camping for summer vacation.
Oh no. Like, am I doing this to my child?
Well, no, it was like, I enjoy it. Like last year around this time, I think it was probably last weekend, this time last year, because I started seeing some of the photos pop up on my Facebook memories. We went to, not it specifically where we used to go, but we went to the lake, and it was just like, oh, this just kind of feels like home. Like, you know,
Yeah.
not your real home, but like just familiar, I guess is the best way to.
I know that's camp for us up home. And but it's a little different now because they have cell phone service now, and I always loved that they didn't have cell phone service. And you know, they're putting in all kinds of stuff, and you know, nobody's alive anymore, so it's almost kind of like sad now. Like I like to go, I love the smells. Some smells in Virginia Beach and the woods are similar, which is odd. But I know what you mean. Like I do. Like if I feel like I want to get close to my mom and dad, I want to go where there's a similar smell, like limbic system, right? Like so.
And you know, it's one of those things where I don't even know where that would be anymore, because it seems like, oh, we went so many places and I associate things with my mom, so many different things with my mom. But it, like, right now is that perfect time of year because me and her, we connected over football several years ago. Like outside of being mother-son, it was every Saturday night, Sunday morning. Hey, the Bears are playing. What do you know about this team? She was getting into some football pool or, you know, confidence pool. And she's like, hey, the Lions are playing Tampa Bay. What do you think? And, you know, it was just like this really weird connection. So I don't know.
I get it. I do.
Yeah.
My dad and I did not watch sports, but we had our own thing. So we connected. Actually, music.
Yeah.
Shared. I was listening to a lot of alternative and like indie. Like I love like Glass Animals and Alt J and things like that. And my dad would like send me, because he was old school, because he never got an actual cell phone. He only had a track phone. And he sends me flash drives in the mail of music. And I'll put them in sometimes to like feel close to him. But he would just, he'd be like, here, listen to this, babe. He always called me babe. And he like, it would be songs that he recorded from his little thing on the radio in his car that he drove to 250,000 miles and kept getting it repaired because this is who he was.
Yeah.
He was a funny guy.
I think just music in general is a very connective piece of art. Like generations connect over music, and it's like my mom, she's the reason I listen to rock music. Like that's what I'm into now, or well, not all that I'm into, but you know, that's mainly what I listen to now, because when we were young, had a friend that gave me a Styx album, and she's like, oh, you like Styx? And I'm like, yeah. And she's like, here, listen to these bands. And it was like CCR, Jethro Tull, you know, just like all these things. And so, yeah. And I remember this one day I came back from school, and I had made this compilation album in computer class. Like it was a computer, we were doing like PowerPoint. I don't remember exactly, but I made a compilation album, and the first song on the CD, I put it in the car, and the first song on the CD was Du Hast by Rammstein, like this German metal band. And I put it in, and I forgot that my mom is half German, and she knew a little bit of German because she had taken German through high school. And I put the album in, and she's like, why are we listening to a song called I Hate You? And I'm so sorry, that was really random, but
No, it's okay. This is how my brain works. Like, I would say it makes me an excellent musician, but like awful at getting through life because I'm like, oh, look, a squirrel.
yeah, it's like, oh,
Let's talk about this.
let's talk about this. But so just kind of moving forward, what does your schedule look like through the rest of the year? Are you starting to do shows, or what does your show schedule look like coming up?
I had a couple of lines, but honestly, I might do a few here and there that for my independent artistry. But honestly, what I really want to do is really build quite the catalog, go hard, which I've started to do, and then come out like say December and come out, you know, like, because I feel like trying to do all of it at once has not been serving me well. I'd rather come out and just focus real hard and have several records and then come out. Like, so if there's a show here and there, I will. I did a couple recently, but I feel like it would benefit me more. And so my dad had AML. It's the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society in October.
Yeah.
It's a 2-mile run each day, 72 miles challenge in October. I'm doing it. I also have a fundraiser on my Facebook, you know, something I'm passionate about. And I'm going to use it because when I was teaching kickboxing, my voice was getting crazy good because it's so beneficial to do cardio and sing at the same time. So I'm like, I feel like I'm just going to like practice my dance, get my health back on track. I'd flared a bit recently, and then really worry about the shows and just come out like as a force. Like, I never wanted to be one of those just like, I wanted to do it all. Like, so it's a good time to sharpen my skills and get back, but I am gigging. I did a couple gigs recently as an acoustic duo, sold out, VB, Virginia Beach, and like amazing, crazy talented musicians that have really cool resumes like that I get to work with. And we start vocal rehearsal Sunday. So we're going to be gigging. And then I found out I have an amazing opportunity next fall I'll speak on it more when I know what I could say, what I can, you know. I'm just like so excited, and I'm going to use that time to practice my skills, study other artists. Like I do like Chaka Khan's Sweet Thing, and her phrasing is so crazy. And I'm like, you know, just the way she does it, and like the way she does it, she slides into it and then she cuts it off. And so like, I'm like studying that, and I feel like it's the perfect time to sharpen my skills and then come out in like December. Yeah. Just be like, who is she? Where'd she come from?
I think 2022 is going to be a really good year for musicians because, you know, like 2020 was obviously bad because of COVID, everything was shut down. And then as we started coming into 2021, it was like, oh, things are getting better. We could start planning. And then things started getting worse and people stopped taking it, or like they stopped planning so far ahead because it was like, oh, well, why am I going to take this show? It's going to get canceled. You know, like, yeah, I think that started being the mindset for a lot of musicians. But now I'm starting to see the reverse happen where any big opportunity they get in 2022, they're going to take it just because it's like, you know, like it's time.
That's really what I'd rather do. Like I do a couple like gigging things and such, and I'll use it to get, you know, work on confidence and accrue people that might like me personally too as an artist. And so I think that's just kind of really where I want to go. And because I find it too hard for me to, you know, wear multiple hats. And because I don't necessarily work the buttons. Maybe at home I do a little bit, but I'm also like producing stuff at the same time. So it's a lot to wear all of those hats and be a mother. And then like personal training is creative in and of itself. And like, nope, they got this thing going on. Now, how do we change their programming? You know, and it's like a lot of brain power. So I feel like it would better serve me to really practice my dancing, work on my voice, and, you know, do what I can now, like always start, but not worry, oh my God, I got to book shows. No, that's not it. Yeah. No, like I want that catalog. I'm calculating. No, I'm joking.
So you're obviously really busy, packed schedule, but really motivated. What keeps you motivated? What keeps you going?
Having been seeing what it's like to have it taken away. And when I'll talk to my husband when I'm really feeling low. There's so many times I want to give up. Like, to be transparent, I deal with it all the time. Friends who feel me and know when to reach out and tell me. But what keeps me going is that, and knowing that there was a time where I didn't have a choice. And how silly would I be to not take advantage of a second chance? Because I mean it when I say I couldn't even read a screen.
Mm-hmm.
I would get so dizzy and I would see double. So noise was too much. It would make me feel like I was like sensory overload, like I was going to pass out. So the fact that I can do all of this again, my vocal cords were dysfunctioning. I'm singing better than ever. And I am driving a car again. I'm not stuck on the couch all day. I go up and down, I do, but like, I would be so dumb not to see that as a sign that this is what I'm supposed to be doing in life, Yeah. I mean, not many people with Lyme disease are blessed like that. I know so many people where we got sick around the same time and I started getting a lot better and they never did. So, there's got to be greater purpose. And then when you're given the platform, you have to find the ways you need to use it. So.
Absolutely. What advice would you give to a musician that's at that point of wanting to give up or just thinking that, like I've gone as far as I can go?
So one thing that someone told me, and I think it's the best advice ever, A, there's, fan base for everyone. Mm-hmm. B, the only difference between someone who is objectively successful and who isn't is the one who is successful just didn't quit. They have probably triple the amount of failures of the person that did quit. There's no difference. It's just they kept going. So you have to realize too, and when you ruffle people's feathers, that means you're onto something. So if you make people uncomfortable, there's a reason. If people have a lot to say, it means you're stirring something up in them. And you should never live for other people's feelings and such. And because usually a musician wants to give up whenever they're feeling like there's a lot of noise and people are saying, oh, we're not very good, or it's not going to work for you, because people project their own things and it's almost never about you. Mm-hmm. I do a lot of reading on this and a lot of work, and it's just, if it's something that's true to your heart, there's a reason it's placed in your heart. You're given a gift for a reason. Like, I certainly can't do brain surgery. Mm-hmm. We have people on this planet gifted with that and those skills and that intelligence for a reason. Everyone plays a role. So you're given it for a reason. You're not crazy for wanting to do it. And it's absolutely feasible to make incomes. Just get creative with streams of income.
Absolutely. Well, I don't want to keep you too much longer because I know you had asked how long this was going to go. And I hate it when people ask that, because I feel like if I say, oh, it's this long, and it doesn't end up being that long.
Listen, I know I talk a lot. So.
But here's the difference. Like, talking a lot and it being an impactful conversation. Mm-hmm. Like, I'm going to go back. I don't usually listen to my own podcast because I hate the sound of my voice.
I think we all.
I guarantee you, I'm going to go back and I'm going to listen to this, because there's stuff that we talked about that in the moment I knew how to respond to it, but it didn't hit me the way it will when I go back and listen to it as a listener.
That's beautiful. I love that, because that's what it's about. Ideally, even if I use illusions, I really want the music to be like that. It's so important. I'm a very prolific type person.
Completely understood. But if people want to check out your music or any upcoming shows, like kind of want to keep up with you and what you got going on, where's the best place for them to do that?
So the most succinct way to find me would be Instagram, because I have a link tree there. It has a website. It has, the major streaming platforms. It's always Louissa. And if I'm on a platform, TikTok, Twitter, anything, it's always going to be Louissa Sings for consistency. Want it to be a little more creative, but I am of course on Facebook and everything, but that's the best way. So you can go right into that link tree, and every major link that you might want to find me on is going to be right there.
Awesome. What's your favorite social media platform?
Yeah, millennial. I love Instagram. I am trying to understand TikTok, but I love pretty things.
It took me so long to even just open up to the Instagram.
Yeah.
Like for whatever reason, I just kind of invested so hard into Facebook.
I do like Facebook too, though. I do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I became so one-dimensional on my social media platforms, and I noticed that, oh wait, I need to diversify my life a little bit.
You need to know where your listeners are. And I actually think that, like, I'm on Clapper too, and I was surprised the engagement I was getting on there, but I just I get overwhelmed, and I need to do TikTok more. When I actually do give it effort, I find people that I know are going to be good listeners. So it's just my daughter, she's 10, she just turned 10, and she totally understands everything. She makes these amazing edits. And I'm like, this is like a film thing. I'm like, who are you? And I'm like, can you show me how you did? I'm a 10-year-old. It's so bad. And I'm just,
I'm going to change your world right now.
Okay.
This is going to sound insane, but just roll with me on it. LinkedIn.
Oh, dude, I have that. I know. And I know that I should be, because I take all of I'm sorry, I get excited. I took all of the courses, and I took this amazing course for the Fame Hackers, and I was getting connections, and Clubhouse brought me some cool stuff, but then I got overwhelming, Yeah.
Well, the only reason I didn't get involved heavily on Clubhouse is because I did Clubhouse. I went on a couple of the rooms or the chats or whatever it is you call it. And just the functionality just seemed like a feature that anybody else could put on their platform. So you see now it's on Facebook, or it's not on Instagram yet, but it's on Twitter, just it feels like a feature, not its own platform.
I think the thing that was the appeal was the exclusivity. Is that how you would say it?
Oh yeah.
Someone gave me an invite, which I was thankful for, because I really did meet, I met the guy who mixed the Kanye album. and I got to watch him. He was obviously successful, blow up. And that was cool. And I met some DJ on BBC radio, and oh my gosh, I was supposed to cut a demo for him. And I just I was dealing with my own insecurities at the time. I really want to work with him. He's doing well over in the UK, really cool connections. And that's not even, who did Love Me, the producer, I met him on there, and it was really cool, but it did get super kind of overwhelming. And then, it's great for finding your fan base though.
Yeah.
You have to
absolutely
engage.
And I still get alerts, but now I'm starting to notice that they're coming more from Twitter. So
I really use Twitter. I stay a lot on Facebook. If you actually know me, you're going to see you're my friend now. I basically I love clapbacks and silly things. And I like to make jokes. I love comedy.
It's my favorite thing to do on Instagram right now, because it's very prevalent and common. Every time I post something on Instagram, is you get those promote this in front of 5 million people or whatever. And so it's always for some fake record company.
Oh, yeah.
And so I love going into those, or going into that comment and roasting them.
Me too.
It is my there was this one, listeners of this podcast are tired of me telling this story, but it's such an amazing story. It wasn't even on my profile, but a new band that had just started. So they were just trying to get their, they were all musicians that had been playing for a while, but they decided to form like a mega band or whatever you want to call it. And so they're promoting a show, and they got this person that was like, hey, promote your thing, 5 million fans and the Instagram handle was Hot Rope Records. And I'm like, perfect. I see you're getting hit up by Hot Rope Records. I wonder how many careers they've hung out to dry. And so then the person that posted it messaged me. It's like, oh, are you interested in advertising? And I'm like, oh, geez, yes.
You have to, though. It's like, I'm like, if you're going to do this to me and you're going to waste my time, like, I'm just treating you how you treat me. Like, I'm going to waste your time. So I get on there and I'm like, they sent a link. And so then the link I tagged was funny cat memes. And then like, we were going back and forth. And I was like, if you're going to do this. And then like, I'll say funny things intentionally. And I hope that my followers see it, because I do think it highlights my personality, because that's truly who I am. You know, like there's a serious kind of sensual artistry side. And then there's like, oh yeah, no, in real life, like if you're my friend, I'm gonna like, I hear them. As soon as somebody says something, I hear a clap back, and it's like, it hurts. I have to hold it in. And like, it's just like, if you're just gonna do that, like I had, I think a trafficker the other day, and I almost sent him the FBI address when he asked for my address. Like, I was so tempted, but I was like, maybe you could actually track me down. So I shouldn't make him mad, but I was going to be like, yeah, send me the clothes. Here's my address. And then, like, I was like, oh, yeah, that's who I am.
My favorite thing is when you get those, there was a point there where you were getting phone calls, like and somebody was trying to hack into your computer. Basically, the basic scam was he was trying to hack into your computer. And so I knew the number because it would always they would always call from some random city in New York or some random borough in New York. And so whenever I saw that, be like, cool, I'm in the mood to screw with somebody. I would answer it. He'd be like, hello, is this Mr. Quiat? Or, you know, like just horribly butcher my last name. And I'm like, yeah, this is, you know, he would call me by my dad. It's always my dad's name. For whatever reason, they have my dad's name, but my phone number.
That's creepy.
And so I'd be like, yeah, what's up? And they'd be like, your computer is under attack. We need your something firewall. We need you to go to your, they'd always say Microsoft machine.
Oh, Microsoft.
Yeah, they would say Microsoft machine. And I was like, a Microsoft machine? I only work with Apple. What Microsoft machine are you seeing? And they're like, and then they'd hang up. Like, and I mean, I'm not lying. I have only Apple products. I haven't had a PC in, you know, quite some time, but you know, just like having that ability to screw with them is.
I just want to be like, oh my, really? What do I do? You know, like, and just like, and then give them all this fake information. Like I got a hairdresser thing. One person kept booking an appointment in Jacksonville through my telephone number. And so then I'd reschedule it and cancel it. No lie. I did that. I was like, stop booking with my phone number. So if you're going to keep doing that, then I'm going to mess with you.
And I had one guy, he was asking for a good number to contact me at, but he had called me on my phone. So it was just like, all right, whatever. And so I gave him, he had asked me for a good number to contact me. And I gave him the number for 1-800-GO-FUCK-YOURSELF.
Love it.
And he's like, how do you spell that? And I'm like, and I just hung up. At that, when he asked me how to spell it, I was like, all right, you obviously are completely lost or have not a clue.
Oh man. Yeah. And then you feel bad for messing with them, but I don't know. That brings me great joy. I'm not really sure what it says about me. Right.
I love it. I don't do it on Instagram that much anymore, just because it gets to a point where reality records. How many different jokes can I say about reality records before?
Right.
Yeah.
And it might put you in the algorithm weird. And so like, that's another reason that I've tried not to engage with it too much now. Like, cause I'm like, oh, this might be detrimental to me.
Yeah.
But do you know Joe Lycett? I have to ask you before we go. Do you know who Joe Lycett is?
No, I don't.
He's a British comedian, and I highly recommend you check him out because he does stuff like that. Oh my gosh, he's so funny.
Nice. Wait, he's not the guy that pretends to be an old woman?
I don't know if he's done that, but he's like, he said one time about a parking ticket, and he had a sign, like, I'm on the Costa del Sol. And like, he's like, I'm sorry, I can't do this. And he messes with them. And then he had something about a cat, but it really wasn't a cat. And like, he's so funny. He's so witty and quick-witted. Like, I'm telling you, look up some of his stuff when we get off. And the one about the apartment, like, he messes with scammers and people right back. Joe Lycett, like, you'll lose it. If you like to mess with people, you're going to be a fan. Like, for real.
Oh, yeah. I'm already, I have not seen anything he's done, but I'm already a fan.
Yeah, it's so funny. You're gonna die with laughter.
I can't wait. I absolutely cannot wait. And so it's been an absolutely amazing podcast. I can't believe we've gone for an hour and a half already. It's so funny because I originally just booked that hour and a half as, okay, it takes a half hour. Cool. I've got an hour free in my schedule to go.
I'm sorry.
Whatever. No. But early on, I would try and force podcasts to go an hour and a half because I like the longer formats.
Right.
And then you run into these situations where after 20 minutes, we're sitting here talking about nothing. You know, it's just like, so American Idol, what are your thoughts? You know, but no, just when it's moving, it's moving. I love it. I always want to make sure I'm not wasting somebody's time.
Oh,
So.
Thank you for the platform. And like, if there's any moments for any way that I can assist with my artistry and platform to assist in anything, like, let me know and reach out. I'm here. You have my contact information.
Yes, I do.
Lovely. It's wonderful to meet you.
Yep. Lovely to meet you as well. And, you know, it was a blast sitting here chatting with you, and I'm going to go listen to more of your music and just find, you know, I've listened to what you have on Spotify, but I'm going to go just start diving deep and seeing what else I can find.
What's on those Voices, and give me your opinion on any you think I should make. I'll because I archive stuff a lot. I'm definitely an artist. I'm like, oh, I'll take it off. And like,
I've done that before, where there's a lot of stuff that it's like, oh, this isn't live and amplified. It was like stuff that I'd done in the past, and now it's like, oh, I wish I wouldn't have deleted it.
I know. I archive and unarchive all the time. I'm like, I'm so moody. I'm such a Pisces.
Yeah. So, well, once again, thank you so much for sitting down and chat with me. It's been an absolute blast. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in, and we will catch you guys later.
Bye.